Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for Ask the Expert North Texas. I'm Kristen Diaz.
David Rankin, COVID's back in the conversation again, thanks to a new strain that's making the rounds around the world. And there's talk of another possible booster shot coming out next month. Kids are back in school, and there are new numbers that COVID cases are starting to increase again, just not to the pandemic levels. On today's Ask the Expert, we are joined by Dr. Joseph Chang. He's the medical director at Parkland Hospital. He's in the K-Early Zoom room. Nice to see you again, Doctor.
And here we are again,
Yeah,
right?
I thought the pandemic had ended and COVID disappeared from our lives. What happened?
Well, when the president declares it's over, it has to be over, right? But unfortunately, germs don't really care what our president might say. So yeah, COVID's back a little bit. It's not quite at any sort of alarming level, but certainly numbers are going up. It's all around the country. Fortunately, however, for North Texas, our numbers have been going up, but not quite as fast or as steeply as some other parts of the country. So, but you guys will probably remember that happened to us before as well. The Northeast would shoot up, and the Midwest would shoot up, and we would trail behind a little bit. So we'll kind of see how it goes. It's watchful waiting right now. Not too much panic yet.
We spoke to Stephen Love, president of the DFW Hospital Council, just at the beginning of the school year. And he kind of said what you said. I mean, it's going up, not a big concern. But let me tell you, this weekend, having just personal conversations with family and friends and hearing about it outside of my workspace, not just having conversations like this, but, so-and-so's got sick and their kid's sick and I started to have this panic attack. I was like, I was at a restaurant and somebody sneezed and I'm like, oh my gosh,
right.
Ew, gross. I got to get out of here. I can't breathe. It's like, how do we deal with that anxiety from the pandemic when we were so afraid of what COVID could do?
Yeah, to some extent, we all have a little bit of PTSD from certainly at least that first year, the first wave, and then Delta. It was just really kind of overwhelming. So I think we all feel that a little bit. Certainly us here in the healthcare industry feel that a little bit. But I think the important things to remember are these, right? We already saw that Omicron was, even though numbers were sky high, the virulence or the severity of disease had already dropped since Delta and prior strains, right? And so as we progressed from Omicron to sort of Omicron light, which everything has been since then, even when we've seen numbers go up, we have not seen hospitalizations go up, and we really have not seen deaths move at all, right? So that's the good news, right? So to answer your question, Christian, I mean, yes, we know that it's there. Yes, we know we can get it, but I think we can all rest assured that these strains now are far less deadly than they were before. That's not to say that if you don't have some pre-existing health conditions that you should not be careful. And who wants to get sick anyway, right? But at least I think the fear and panic, we can keep that at bay just a little bit because we know that these strains are going to be a little less severe.
How much different is this new Eris strain that's making the rounds? Do we have immunity from it if we've gotten our COVID vaccinations and boosters?
Yeah, so I think the thing to remember from that standpoint, and without getting too technical about it, the newest boosters are designed against Omicron. And the generation of booster before that had some Omicron activity, but not exclusive Omicron protection, right? The good news for us is that this current one, what we call EG5 or Eris, right? We've left the Greek alphabets. We've now entered in Greek goddesses, which is what Eris is an offshoot of Omicron. And so at least preliminary tests have shown that the biggest strain now, which again is Eris, is going to be protected against by the new booster. So even though it's a cousin, not quite the same as Omicron, there is definitely enough genetic similarity that the booster should protect very well against this current strain.
I think that's an interesting little small fact is that we went from the alphabet to goddesses. That's interesting. But back on the booster. So did we ever determine how long the booster was efficient for? Because I know that there was a timing situation back then when we were getting the boosters more frequently.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I mean, I think initially there was some conservatism in that wanted to err on the side of getting more than less, right? So we wanted people to be more protected rather than less. I think as we've learned more, about how our vaccines have worked against this particular virus. And again, even though it's not lifelong, like our chickenpox vaccines or whatever, it gives us more than the 3 to 6 months that we initially thought, right? So right now the thought is really, as long as the strains don't mutate too much, you're looking at pretty good immunity up to 12 months. And so is this like a flu situation where things will change every year? We don't know yet, obviously. But for now, it seems that the mutation rate has really slowed down quite a bit. And so our boosters should last a good long time. It certainly should get you through this winter season without any problem.
We're not just talking about Eris, though. There are a total of 3 different kind of variations going around. And
yeah,
I'm seeing one that's called Formax and a third one called Pirola. Are those similar that we don't necessarily need to worry about those?
Yeah, absolutely. They're actually very similar to Eris. And again, all of them we can trace back to Omicron. So like I said, the mutation rate really has slowed down quite a bit. The difference between Alpha, our original coronavirus variant or whatever, was very different than Delta. I mean, those are almost like they're like third cousins, not first cousins at all, And so vaccine against one didn't work great against the other. These are similar enough right now, these kind of strains, that we actually all call them sort of Omicron like kids. So they're all pretty similar. And so the same booster will work for all.
Do we still need our booster cards or our COVID cards?
Do
Do we still need to be like keeping track of when the last one was versus the next one? Or is that going to be like now in our medical records, and then the doctors will give us hey, it's time for your appointment?
Yeah, I would really doubt you need to carry those things around anymore.
It's like almost ancient, like I can't wait to tell my grandkids, look at my COVID card.
Right. Well, listen, I know that this is a radio show, but I can show you right now in my wallet. I still have it.
Yeah.
I still have my record of my COVID shots. I really doubt that we'll ever get to the point where we need to see that anymore. Because again, these mutations are much farther apart, and they're not quite as big mutations as they used to be. So I would really say at most now we would be it'd be like the flu shot where we would maybe say get a booster every year. But at the way things are going, I'm not super positive that in another year or two, we really won't be talking about it anymore at all. We'll just have to kind of see how this goes. And it's like prior pandemics we've had, right? The last one in the early 1900s, the Spanish flu. We don't have Spanish flu vaccines now. Like, I mean, you don't even talk about it, right? So we really think that it's more following the pattern of Spanish flu rather than the actual sort of flu that we see now that comes back every single year. We feel like this is more of a unique situation rather than the recurring situation.
Will that be the medical advice for people for this year and years to come? Is that if you're going to get a flu shot, also you might want to get the latest COVID shot. In some cases, you can get it at the same time.
Yeah, I would say for now, yes, right. This year, I would still absolutely advise people get it. I'm going to get it because who wants to get sick? Like, I don't want to get sick. And as I've mentioned to you before, like, my kids are out of the house now. They're in college. I certainly am going to tell them. I'm not going to ask them. I want to tell them they need to get it because, again, even though severity has really, really gone down, I mean, why get sick if you don't have to? I mean, there's just no reason to do that. So I would advise folks go ahead and get it. And again, certainly if you're elderly or if you have other pre-existing medical conditions.
It's Dr. Joseph Chang from Parkland. Dr. Chang, it's always a pleasure. Thanks.
All right. Talk later.